Hiyo de Gallo. This is a comic creator that blows my mind and also makes me smile. This is Walt Simonson, and we're going to start off with his run on Thor. This is 337 to 383, I think, is his run ish. Really amazing run. He did such an amazing job with this that he's known for his run on that just as much as Kirby did for creating it. That's pretty dang good. If you could be right up there with the guy who thought everything up, and especially a guy like Kirby who thought up the whole Marvel universe, yeah, you did a great job. And so we look at this Thor run, and it checks all the boxes you could want to check as a storyteller, everything. So we see visual inventiveness, every fight, every monster, every good guy, every character, the whole bit. It feels like the comic can barely contain the story within its pages. That's what's going on here, and that's part of the reason why it's so epic. And the great thing about it is the writing matches the visual storytelling. That's a pretty good deal, because there's an issue that we're going to look at a little bit as we flip through these, where it's one of the best issues in the whole run, and the best thing about that issue is the writing and not the art. I mean, the art is still a huge part of it, but the writing surpasses the art. And if you are telling stories like that, pretty good deal. So, oh yeah, don't want to forget this. So, along with all the epic things, part of what makes it epic as well is the lettering. John Workman does a lot of this stuff. Now, you will have these panels, these scenes like this, where you have a whole panel and it's just dedicated to the letters that are going on. And so that's a huge deal. And a neat thing, we'll look over here, where every time somebody talks about breaking the third wall, it's almost in the context of the character, in some movie, looking into the camera and talking to his audience and cracking the joke. Well, here, the lettering, the whole story, all the letters happen on our side of the fourth wall, but he takes the lettering and puts it on the character's side. So you see this crackle here. It's almost as much a part of it's almost as much a part of the monster as, the words are just the same, on the same level as the monster, because it's partially obscured by the boulder here, the whole bit. And that is a really neat thing, really inventive thing about going on. You will see this over and over again, where the words are just as much a part of the characters as the characters are. So it's really neat to see something on our side of the fourth wall jumping in there. So that's pretty cool deal. So we got the lettering, and then visually inventive storytelling. This is, if you're wanting a way to introduce a monster, this is the best way. Start with just eyes. Red eyes glowing in the dark. But the neat thing is, and I'm not sure the camera can pick it up too great, boop. So you see a little bit where the red is bleeding onto the black, so that even in the dark it's glowing. And so, glowing red eyes, introducing another piece of the monster, his backbone with the fins, a close-up of his mouth, smoking mouth, and then maybe as he crawls by, his tail whips around. And then you have the... Listen, if you're telling a story that when I'm reading it, I'm sounding out I'm sounding out the sound effects, you're doing a good job. And this is one of my favorite panels in the run, is you just see this low shot with his fist coming down, and it's a really neat deal, because I love the static medium, but somebody showing motion through repeating images. And it's really clever, because the color's off, and then less and less is drawn, and then again the sound effect on the bottom breaking all the panels, and then you have the monster doing his carnage. So really inventive storytelling. Again, if you want to introduce a monster, Don't show them just jump scaring into the screen. Show pieces of them at a time and then introduce them full carnage. And so, I will partially obscure the big thing here. So this is 379. This is the Fing Fang Foom, which is kind of silly to say, issue. This is the name of this dragon. And so as I'm picking up this run piece by piece, my comic book store has a pretty good back issue section. So I'm picking up the whole run piece by piece. And I put this down and I'm talking to the guy, and this is one of his favorite issues. And when I get some of these comics, the first thing I do is just flip through it. What's the big visual thing that's gonna blow me away that I could, take into my vocabulary and use to get better? And I'm flipping through, and there's nothing except for one of the last panels. There's nothing really stand out going on. So I'm like, all right, well, the guy at the comic store said it's one of his favorite issues in the run. So I start looking through, reading, and every word, the story gets bigger and better and more epic. And so what happens is Loki gets some henchmen, has them antagonize this dragon to go after Thor. The dragon is talking to Thor at one point, not knowing that he's talking to Thor, and basically is asking for directions. Through a conversation, they find out who each other are, and they have this epic kind of conversation where it's almost like they're one-upping each other in, bravado kind of a deal. It almost feels like, who's going to be the bigger Super Saiyan kind of a deal. And, I just kind of laugh and shiver a little bit. Every time I read the story, like hair stand up on my neck because it's so well put together. Like, you are 9,000, no, I'm over 9,000, that kind of deal. So this huge thing, really, really fun story, really epic. And again, going back to that thing where the story can't be contained within the pages that are trying to capture it. The words and the storytelling, the letters of the story are just as much as that as the visuals. And so a huge deal. So we get to our big payoff here is this dragon goes into his final form. Again, very much like the Super Saiyan kind of deal. So this is the big payoff at the end of it, which really makes the story even better, because after all this jawing, it actually pays off, which doesn't always happen in storytelling. How many times have you been let down after some kind of big buildup? But it absolutely pays off. And again, really cleverly with the lines moving all over the place, taking a static medium and conveying motion as this final boss rips out of, the underboss or whatever. And so we get to this last epic face-off, Thor 380. In the whole run, if you're wanting something visually stunning that's going to blow you away, it's this. This is an all splash page issue. Every page is a splash, this double splash here. So you see Thor and this big dragon serpent thing flying around. And so you see, I mean, he can't even fit in the page. And so they're fighting each other, and it's a payoff, and definitely over 9,000 of everything that we've been talking about. Huge words, dragon, story, the whole bit. Going into the ground and blowing everything up. Thor's barely getting out of the way. Again, words, explosions, the fights, too gigantic. Really cool deal. I mean, that's, you got that Kirby energy in here 1,000%. So yeah, I can't even talk, man. I'm just looking at this and kind of blown away. Just really good stuff. So he gets bit by the monster, blows out the monster's teeth. I mean, how can anybody not like that, buddy? So, and yeah, that's not Kirby energy. I don't know what is. And so as great as this is, to me, the best thing about all this is how Simonson got discovered. It just is some kind of nobody. He got discovered in this Star Slammers. Now the story behind this is he went to the Rhode Island School of Design, and I'm a little muddy on the details, but I think he might have done some undergrad work and then went to Rhode Island. And in between, he was a librarian. And while he was a librarian, he started to get a bunch of sci-fi books into his library. And because he got a bunch of sci-fi books into his library, he started to get a bunch of sci-fi fans. And that grew and grew until they started a sci-fi club. And then as a part of the sci-fi club, they want to attract the sci-fi convention. And he starts writing something called Star Slammers. Now he takes that eventually, and that's what he hands in as his portfolio for Marvel. But I love the beginning of it because so this channel is all about trying to take what you can and learn and be a good creator and all those things. And whether you're going to go self-publishing route or you try to get picked up by somebody, you want to be good enough to do so. And part of the reason why I love this and this whole run is that he puts all the stuff in there that he was when he was a nobody. So the front half of this book, it's everything Star Slammer. So the front half is one of his 70s stories, and then when he's able to kind of finish part of the run in the 90s. But then as a part of this whole collection, he shows everybody his high school haircut. I mean, you think of a guy who's putting together an epic run on Thor, he shows what he used to do for zines. There's not a lot of artists that would feel comfortable doing that. Again, almost like a bad high school haircut, but he does it. I will say that the book is worth the get for the stories in the beginning. Oh yeah, and really this is the thing that's really fun about these artist editions. You get stories in here where there's no color, and I would love to see more black and whites from him, man. If you want to sell me a book, put it in black and white. I'm a sucker for it. I'll buy it just about every time. So anyway, so we get to this, and so this is the cool deal. So he starts doing this zine to try to attract the committee to bring the sci-fi convention to Washington, D.C., where he lives. So he starts making this, and so you see how just rough this is. Even in the beginning, he calls it Space Slammers and not Star Slammers. And so it's good, but it's not professional good. I mean, but it's like really good zine stuff. But you see, even after the first page, he's getting better. And he's doing more clever layouts. He's going from just figures to backgrounds. The characters are getting sharper. You have early stuff here where lots of words. He talks about how lettering wasn't really a problem for him because that was a pretty big focus where he's going to school, so he got that out of the way. But you see just very a torso, a hands, and then a single guy sitting by himself. But then bam, you get a boardroom. And so you see him slowly putting more and more time into getting better and better. And that's the point of all this. And really I do have to laugh at this. My old man's an old hippie, and so I got this and showed him. And so he's flipping through it, and the first thing he's like, "Oh, that old cowboy's wearing barrel bottoms," which I thought that was pretty funny, but kind of a cool deal there. So very 70s, very 70s image, all on top of everything else, it's a really cool time capsule. Just a little bit of, back into a different era, little snapshot. So that the reason why I'm doing this whole thing is to show if you put your time in, you can get good. And he is, and that's the great thing. So we go, better and better. We see him growing till, to me, is the big payoff. We see this final panel, one of the final panels, where there's a confrontation. They take, they beat the bad guy, and there's this animation style thing falling down And to me, that is you never want to get into in anything in life. You never want to get into the mindset of, oh, I've made it. But that is going from a really rough zine to, I mean, look, oh gosh dang it, come on, there we go. So going from really rough zine to that, it's a pretty epic jump. And the neat thing about it was when he was going to school, his junior and senior project, he was allowed to carry over the same project and keep working on it, and his professors got behind him and encouraged him to do so. And so you take all of that stuff, he gets the committee to come to DC, he turns in a pretty great portfolio that his professors encourage him to work on and let him do for his projects, and he gets picked up by Marvel. And then a couple years later, he's writing one of the best runs on Thor. So that's a thing. Why I love the guy so much and I love his work is it's just the story, local boys make good. Some nobody, some curly haired hippie guy puts in enough work, and he gets to do the cool thing. And so to me, I guess a minor travesty is when I found out about this, and I talked to my comic book store guy, and he ordered this, and I bought it from him. But I was saying, man, I couldn't believe it's still in print. And my comic book store guy was like, well, I talked to the distributor. They got a whole warehouse full of these things, which to me is a travesty because, I mean, it's good. Go get the book because it's great, but more people need to know about this. And if you're somebody who's trying to get discovered, this whole book tells, to me at least, you put the time in, at least if you're maybe at the high grade hobbyist kind of level, you can do it. And especially with everything, the ease of publishing, all that, it's so doable. You just got to put the time in. And yeah, this is definitely a big signpost saying that you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. So enough gushing. Until next time, let's all get published. Boop.